Welcome to Bravado Wireless's podcast, Four Quarters with Curtis and Two, and welcome back to the show. And we're glad to be back for week 2. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, I didn't know you'd make it. I figured I might slide in there for a second chance, but I'm glad you're here, Curt.
Yeah. Your beard it stands out, for sure. I think that gives you the heads up on me, for no doubt about it. But we're excited to be back. We're joined tonight by Coach London, the head Chuck London, the head girls coach for Gibson Lady Tigers, and we'll talk to him a little bit about his program, where he came from. He has some Tulsa 7 days and at Bristow, and talk a little bit about that, and talk about the tradition of Fort Gibson basketball, and talk a little bit about the tournament that's coming up this week. So excited to see that.
Yeah, excited to talk to Coach London, and I know he's been assistant a couple of big-time programs, and won a state championship at Bristow and won one at Fort Gibson, and he's got another great team, and so I'm anxious to talk some basketball with him.
Yeah. We'll also remind the fans this is a big week of basketball. Last tournament week for high school basketball before we finish up the regular season. A couple of big tournaments around the Tulsa metro area. You've got the Jinx Union tournament, which is always a clash of titans on both the girls' side and the boys' side. And then you've got Port City Classic. It'll be another good tournament.
Catoosa, yep.
And then
some good teams.
And then we'll also have the Old Fort Classic, where we got a lot of really good teams on both the girls' side and the boys' side. So a lot of good basketball this week, and we'll recap some of those events from the past week. But any games jump out at you in the last couple last night?
Well, I just looking at Twitter. I love Twitter, Curt.
Yeah.
Steve Upshaw told me to get on Twitter years ago, and I never did until recently. But I'm a Twitter guy. But just saw some interesting basketball Twitter. Union,
yeah.
Joe Redmond, Union girls must have played very well last night. Beat a very good Sapulpa girls team, number 1 in 5A, and probably arguably one of the best teams in the state in any class. And
right.
So Coach Redmond's got them off and rolling over there at Union. I think they're number 2 in the state, and Castillo,
yeah.
Really good freshman. Barnesville had 43 last night.
Yeah, David Castillo, if you haven't heard of him, freshman playing at Barnesville.
43.
That was what I scored in my junior year.
No, that was your career.
No, I scored 43 junior year.
Okay.
If you count JV and varsity, I scored 43 in my
and
junior
West
year.
Side?
Yeah.
Okay. Add them all up.
Yeah. Hey, I could take them where I can get them.
So then at our old stomping grounds, Booker T, they lost a tough one last night, a high-scoring affair to the Bigsby Spartans. But Cam Parker, started for us last year, junior, had 34 and playing well this year, along with IJ.
Yeah, the big dogs, as I like to call them.
Yeah, so some good basketball being played around the area.
Absolutely.
So I think Bigsby. Curt, just looking at the 6A rankings, I think right now, if you go down those rankings, the West Side is, got 7 or 8 teams ranked in the top
right.
10, and right now, if the regular season ended today, you're looking at Bigsby or Owasso getting a home regional, and everything else is going to be West Side teams, which is interesting.
Yeah, you've got that. They match up tomorrow night.
They play a makeup game. Big game at Bigsby tomorrow. Owasso at Bigsby.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. Well, also, as a preview of next week's show, we're going to have Coach Brandon Maddox of Coweta on. His team is playing really well. We saw them with Bravado a few weeks ago at the Fort Gibson Festival. They were at Bixby this weekend for a festival with Bixby, and there's 4 teams. I think it's a boys tournament only, but they're going to play a couple of games. I think they play Bixby and they play maybe McLean is who Coach Maddox told me. I don't have my phone in front of me. But so a lot of good basketball being played, and we'll recap that next week. But we'll have Coach Maddox on, and he coached a player that we got to coach. We'll talk a little bit about that maybe. But
Jason Burrell.
He's a union grad and guy that has been at Hollandall for the past few years, and they came over this year to Coweta.
Yeah, I think he's he's been at Coweta. This is probably his 3rd year, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Well, anyway, we'll have him on, and we'll figure that out. Yeah, we'll ask him and figure that out. But Any things to think about on the college front or NBA front that Kyrie Irving is back?
Well, you know what? I don't.
He practiced today.
He did.
Yeah.
Good.
Said he needs some time off.
Got Kyrie, KD, and James Harden all together.
Yeah.
Again, it'd be interesting.
I did see how many how well they dwell together.
Yeah, there's only one ball. It'll be interesting, but if those guys want to win a championship, they'll figure it out. I did watch a little bit the other night. The Lakers were up big on the Warriors, and then Curry got it going, and they came back and won. So that was interesting game.
Well, we got a lot of good basketball. It's the perfect time of year if you're a basketball fan. We'll be talking about it throughout the coming weeks in our podcast, and we're going to preview Cleveland Manford, the old Keystone Lake rivalry. It's coming up in a couple of weeks, and we'll have a preview of that as well. We're both from the north side of the river and or the lake.
Well, it wasn't a rivalry when I was there. I mean, because Cleveland always won.
Well, that's true. I think it's changed a little bit in the past years.
I left.
But we may try to get Coach Banfield and Coach Brimmer on as well. So
Randy Upshaw would disagree with me on that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, Randy Upshaw would definitely disagree with you on that.
Until January 31st, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off the iPhone 11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Welcome back to Bravado Wireless. They've allowed Conley and I to come back for week 2 of 4 quarters with Curtis and 2, and we're joined tonight by Coach Chuck London of the Fort Gibson Lady Tigers, and welcome to our show.
Appreciate being here. It's an honor.
Well, I don't know about honor. You may regret that.
You're being way too kind.
Regret that statement after this.
Somebody told you to say that. Chris told him to say that.
Yeah, I've been rehearsing. Come on, man.
We had 29 views last week. We're hoping to get to 30 this week. But we're excited to have you. Been a big fan from afar watching Fort Gibson girls basketball. You've been a part of it for several years, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Got the big tournament this week, Old Fort Classic. We'll talk a little bit about that. We may delve into playing days. Sound like you and Conley have crossed paths a little bit, and
almost.
We were trying to get there. We couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, and then we'll talk a little bit about Tulsa 7 days. Maybe we'll get some time. Awesome. So that's kind of where you started. Is that where you started out your coaching career?
That's where it was, Bristol, Oklahoma.
Yeah. What years were you there?
91 through 05, 06. Okay. 91 through 06.
And then you were with Coach Glover, right?
Yes, Daryl Glover.
Okay, and then you followed him over.
Yes, he had left a couple of years before, and then it just had worked out, and so he needed a math teacher, and I was willing to do it as long as I could help in the high school girls program. And of course, I had some kids that were coming along, so it just kind of worked out, and it's been a nice fit.
So 91. So this is year 30.
This is year 30.
Okay. Here's my question for you, Coach. All kinds of success, state championships. What have you learned over those 30 years, in a nutshell?
I would say relationships with your players is the biggest thing.
Right.
And I think it all stems from there.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I always felt like, and Curt was with me and had to settle me down many times. I'm high strung. My dad was high strung, and that's. Most guys I played with or played for were yellers and screamers, but I always felt like that I could get on the kids if they knew that I cared about them off the floor. Yep. And that was the way that I operated, and some people didn't like it, but, I think it worked for us at Booker T. And that's just because you got to be yourself no matter what, right?
That's exactly right. And I haven't got to see you coach a lot. I mean, I've kept up with you, but I think we're very similar into our approach in that I'm excitable, and I get excited and stuff. And so, we coach them. Our kids know that, if we build that relationship, we can coach them harder in a fair way, not bad, and just excited.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they know, and I tell them we're going to praise you when you do things right, and when you make a mistake, we're going to put our arm around you at times, but we're going to coach you hard.
Right.
And anytime we've got that connection, it makes it a lot easier. Most importantly, they respond, and that's what we want.
Well, the success you all had enjoyed at Bristow, it helps that, and it certainly followed you at Fort Gibson. But the success allows that to happen quite a bit easier than
No
when
question.
you don't.
There's no question about that. We had a nice run at Bristow, and our kids really bought in, just like any winning program does. And Darryl did a great job. I got to learn under him, and we had a great time there. But those kids, the support system there was awesome, and really thankful. I'm a Western Oklahoma guy, so I knew nothing about Bristow, and so when I got there, I didn't know, and just it was a great learning experience, and everything I learned there. So it was a great place to start.
Okay, now let me ask you this, because we're about this. We talked earlier, and I'm a couple years older than you, but so when did Oklahoma High School? I know Iowa was the last to go.
Right,
Oklahoma
right.
was next to the last. Was it 91 or 92?
Well, they started trickling. You talking about the 5-on-5?
Yes.
They started trickling in there about 92, 93, somewhere in
Okay,
there. We
okay.
stayed at Bristow. We were 6-on-6 and through until the 94 season.
Okay.
95 was our first year, and that's when the majority went to the 5-on-5.
Okay.
And so that was an interesting changeover. Even though, obviously, playing basketball, we played 5-on-5, but the girls' side of it, it was crazy.
Yeah, I remember, Curt, you remember this. Now, when I was at that's why I said 91 or 92, because I know I was coaching at Cleveland when the Cleveland girls went from 6-on-6
Right.
to 5-on-5.
Right.
And then my assistant, Tim Seibel, at the time was the head girls coach. So he was in charge of that transition, and
Right.
it was
rough transition.
interesting.
It was tough.
Because girls are used to playing one end of the court.
Oh, no
you
question.
had defensive specialists, you had rebounding specialists,
Yes,
and then you
yes.
had scorers. And so it was it's kind of cool to see how it was, because you played 3-on-3 was pretty cool to watch
Well,
on one end.
It sounds crazy, but when it was going, we knew it was going to eventually get there.
Right.
But those coaches, and including me, and I was younger, we loved the 6-on-6. It was high quality basketball.
Great basketball.
Very few turnovers, high percentage shooting. It was really good. And of course, we knew eventually it was going to go 5-on-5, but there was a lot of coaches, and it was the older group, but that were sad to see it go.
Yeah.
I grew up watching. I mean, I loved it. I mean, I saw Stillwell when they had Peyton sisters.
Oh, I saw them
And,
say championship.
Vanessa Welch at Oolaga. I mean, my dad, we saw those guys. I mean, I love that game. I know why it transitioned, but, like I said, Oklahoma and then Iowa, last two to go, the way I remember it.
Yeah,
So.
we were stubborn. We were definitely stubborn, but it was a good game. But, when that first spring, when we went 5-on-5 and we were doing that transition, we would play 2-minute quarters. 2-minute quarters, and they were exhausted.
Yeah, that's a great story.
It was one of the best, or the biggest things was the conditioning. Yeah. 2 minutes for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you start getting them in shape, and then the weekend hit, and Monday, and it was here we go again.
Start all over.
Yeah. So
it took you a while to get to 4 minutes.
It definitely did.
Now, Curt, let me tell you my favorite thing about 6-on-6 girls. Okay, I'm a forward.
Yeah.
Right. And one of my guards gets fouled, and if I'm the best free throw shooter, I get to shoot the free throw. That's the greatest rule ever.
Yeah. For good free throws.
I'd have been a great 6-on-6.
I would have never got to shoot a free
No,
throw.
you wouldn't have, but it benefited me. And Coach London, I didn't know he was a free throw shooter.
It was good stuff.
It wouldn't have helped you.
Yeah,
Kurt.
it wouldn't have helped me at all.
It was a great game. It was
You'd
a great
have been
game.
guard.
Yeah. So how did in the transit? Yeah, I definitely would have been guard. I would have bet you too. It would have been a problem. My 5 fouls were going to count.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I learned that from Craig Brown. I don't know if you remember Craig Brown. His son Derek was a wrestler.
Oh, God, yeah.
And
Came
so
from Cleveland.
he was
That's
a
right.
Cleveland
All the
guy,
Browns did.
and
Russell,
Yeah.
those guys. Yes.
And so Craig always told me that, Coach Tips, who coached him in high school, said, look, you got 5, you better make them count. And so I kind of prescribed that. I took that prescription and went to the court.
Yes.
So, but now, how was the transition? I mean, how did practices change from 6-on-6 to 5-on-5? How did you structure practices?
We try to do as much up and down, just running up and down the floor so we could get our conditioning up, because at that time, that was the number one thing for most teams was how long could you last? And so it was a normal practice, but a lot of it was, just drills up and down the floor. But, our offense, this is crazy, but our offense, we called it spots. Getting your spots.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. High-low spots, double-O spots, X, spots. I mean, that's what we did. And, the game on the girls' side, it's really evolved. It's more athletic. The kids are so much more bigger and stronger, faster, and more athletic. But it's getting towards what the boys' game was. Right. And at first, in '95, our first year, we go to the state finals, and we get crushed in the finals by Elk City and Keitha Dickerson, and they were unbelievable, and we were happy as heck to get that silver ball. But just strategy and stuff, the game has evolved so much in those, basically for us, 25 years. And so it's pretty neat the way it has.
Yeah. Well, and I think, obviously if a young lady wants to go on and be a player, it's a big disadvantage. You're 6-on-6 in high school, and now you're going to go play 5-on-5 in college, right?
And that was a big argument for a lot of people. And of course, being from Western Oklahoma, and that's I get the argument, and that's true. But at that time, I'm growing up, and my sister was an All-Stater at O'Keene, and then you got Kelly Litch at Thomas, and you've got players out there. Southwestern, where I went to college, they were winning NAIAs all the time, and they were 6-on-6 kids coming to play 5-on-5, and it wasn't hurting them, and they were all. Of course, they were getting mainly the forwards because they could shoot and they knew what was going on. But it's been fun, kind of fortunate to be on both sides of that, to be able to coach 6-on-6.
Right there,
There's not a lot of those guys left that are actually coaching that coach 6-on-6, which means I'm old, and I get that. I mean, I know, but I'm dating myself. I know, but it is. I'm very fortunate to kind of be able to be in both of those. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because you talk about 6-on-6. My daughters look at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I had to actually lay out a court and explain to them how the game was played, and they're like, this is the craziest thing.
There's no high school kids playing right now that have ever seen 6-on-6 ever, unless it was on.
I don't think they're any videotape. I don't think they're any tape still good.
I will say, when I was coaching junior high a lot, and we'd get close to Christmas break, we'd played our last game, and now we got a few more days before the break. And I've done this with our high school, some, not recently, but a few years ago, we would do it. I say, okay, we're, and they, you mean you can't go across the line, and all that. And, well, I don't like playing guardian, And so when I was coaching those junior high kids, and we would do that, and I'd say, look, just go home, ask your mama, and she'll be able to tell you what it was like. And so,
talk about the fly switch, right?
Oh, yeah. And the half line, trapping, and all the battles at the half line.
The girls that would go just cross the line.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I don't enjoy girls basketball now, but that's what I grew up, and I saw those great players playing the big house back in the in the 70s.
It's good stuff. But it evolves, and it's a great game today. I mean,
no doubt,
we enjoy it, and it's its purest form, I believe. But
So we'll finish up a little bit with thoughts on Bristow, and then kind of transition to Fort Gibson days. But how many states you won? 2 or 3?
I was an assistant with Darrell for the first 9 years, and we won, and we were runner-up in '95. State champion 97, state champion 99, and then that's when he got out.
Right.
Kind of unique about the 97 and 99 teams, we were in the state finals 97, 98, and 99 every time against Hera.
Yeah.
It was us and Hera each time. And we were happy, we got it in 97 and we got it in 99. You always look back in that 98 and go, golly.
Right.
But that was pretty unique. Those two programs right there mirrored each other, and it was a great
battle.
That's
good rivalry.
That was
then,
cool.
Now, on the boys' side, just real quick, I got to give – you had Rombros Jones.
Oh, yeah.
You had a Crawford. Joey Crawford.
Yes.
And you had Michael Thompson, played football at OU.
Yes.
Rombros might have been the best athlete. I mean, they were athletic bunch.
Very, very athletic. Joey, and God rest his soul, he's passed. But maybe the best high school athlete I ever saw.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable, that young man. He was crazy.
Our best friend, Steve Upshaw, he coached at Cleveland after Conley.
Right.
We all played high school basketball together. He brought an underwhelming Cleveland team to play in the, I think, districts or the first round of regionals down there, and they could shoot it, and they could spread you out. And had a kid, Billy Carr, that's coached at Oklahoma and been around. We played him the Tournament of Champions at Whitesboro, and they started hitting threes. And, I mean, it went from one of those games where, like, it was about 10, 12-point game to we're leading late third. And Joey decides, enough of this. And my brother-in-law, who works for me now, he goes back on transition, and he's like, I want to take a charge. That was a bad idea.
Jumped right
360 right over it. Now, he was 6'4", 230.
Yeah, a halfback.
As a halfback.
He was.
I mean, was an unbelievable athlete. And then Michael got involved in it, Ron Brooks got and then it was over. But for a little while, the Tigers, who could shoot it, they were in the ball game.
That year, Joey, when he was a seventh grader, I remember walking in the gym, and he'd throw the ball up. He'd be in the corner, throw it up, let it bounce, dunk it. And it wasn't like getting it over.
Right.
And I'm like, holy cow. And then that year, we meet McGinnis in the regional finals. And, that's when McGinnis was at their height. They had the Crawford kid.
Right.
They had Blewett. They had another one. They had
Crawford, Blewett, and
the guy that got a lot of the attention. I cannot think of his name.
I don't remember either. I coached.
Big kid. Oh.
I coached Blewett at ORU. He's a great player. Yeah, they won 4 state championships, and then Terrence Crawford went on and played at Oklahoma State. I can't think of the third guy.
Big guy. He got all the pub. But anyway, that goes right to the wire, and they were great. Joey Crawford was the best player on the floor. There was no question.
No doubt.
And by far the best athlete.
It was unbelievable. And they got us right there at the end.
Well, they played was it Eufaula with Dante Swanson? Or was he? No, Wagner.
Yeah.
They played them in the area finals at Bixby. I went and watched that game, and you talk about that was an impressive 4A.
I was there.
Impressive 4A game right then. So,
yes.
First play of the game.
I can't think of his name.
I can't either. I'm getting ready to Google it. I'm getting ready
Dante
to go
Swanson, first play of the game, they go flat or go 4 low, and he ISOs one of they had a bunch of brothers, Catholic brothers that were playing there, 6'4" kid on him, and he crosses him and comes down the lane and just tomahawks one.
Yes.
The first play of the game. It was one of the best high school games in that period.
At Bixby, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were there because we played in the area finals that year and watched that. That was a great atmosphere.
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
Doubt about it.
So you won state championship in 2001. And
yes, I took over in 2000. Darryl had gotten out, and so then we didn't make the state tournament in 2000, my first year, and then in 2001 it was Cinderella.
Yeah.
And we had some kids, fighters, and we just kind of came together. At one time we were 8-7 and got on that roll and ended up winning it in one of the craziest state final games of all time. It's got to be a record. It's nothing. I mean, we can laugh and giggle about it all now, but if it wouldn't have worked out, it'd been horrible. We were up 25-16 at half on Idabel. At the end of the third quarter, we hadn't scored in the second half. With a minute left in the game, we haven't scored in the second half. They finally go ahead of us.
That's crazy.
We're down 2. We had to foul them. They hit one of their free throws. They'd gotten up by 1. They hit one of their free throws and missed the second one. So we're down 2. We haven't scored the entire second half. It's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
We come down the floor, and Brittany Patterson, who ended up being the Lone Star Freshman of the Year the next year, she was kind of our go-to girl. She was getting ready to take the shot way out there. It was like inbounds play, and she saw in front of the bench one of my Autumn Morton, a girl, skipped it over there, a three-point shooter, and she was out farther than normal. It was right in front of our bench, and I'm in line with it.
Right.
She lets it go, and it's off to the right, off
right,
to the left. I was like, God dang, she missed it.
Right.
It took the most unbelievable bounce. I still don't know how it went in. The radio broadcast, you can you can listen to it, and they're like, they made it. And it goes in with 13 seconds left, and we hold them. We scored 3 points in the second half, and win the state championship by one.
That's one of the most unbelievable stories I've ever heard.
You know, I told him after the game, we were kidding around. I said, look, I gave the offense to my assistant, Andy Mosher, in the second half. No, like I said, it's a great
Until that
story.
last 13
That's
seconds.
right. I said, hey, I'll take it back over. No, but it's a great story,
That's
and those
unbelievable.
kids were so tough mentally all through that. But I think it's got to be a record somewhere.
Yeah,
you know,
I've had a couple nights like that coaching girls basketball where you think is one ever going to go in?
Yes,
and
yes.
They're playing so hard and they do things right and just cannot get one to fall.
Oh.
I had a game one time we were playing in Texas and we'd scored 9 points in the first half.
Yeah.
We're down 22-9. We scored 51 in the second half.
Nice.
They're like, "Who's this team?"
Yeah, right,
it's the same 5 girls,
Yeah.
and that just they went down the second half, didn't go down in the first half. So after 2001, you
Well, I stayed there, and we had some nice years, and not to the level that we'd had.
Right.
And I had followed Daryl, and we'd been in 9 state tournaments, and we'd had a lot of success. We were in 4 state finals, and then. I was young. I was ready to go. Let's go. But it started. Whether you put pressure on yourself or not, it started wearing on me a little bit, and we weren't quite as good as we had been, and so it looked like there was an avenue for me to get into administration, and so I had stepped out of that. Well, that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, and the boys coach came to me and said, hey, do you mind coaching some junior high? I'm like, oh, I'll do it. Let's go to work. I'll coach those boys. And so I set out that year, and then is when the opportunity at Fort Gibson came from Daryl.
because podcasts weren't available like from Conley.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And so, looking back on that whole situation, that year I set out from the high school. Sometimes you just got to get away and see what you really want to do. And I remember feeling so empty. And finally I realized, and this sounds really crazy, but I realized, I don't have that state tournament to shoot for. Whether we make it or not,
Right.
I've got a state tournament to shoot for. That's, we coach basketball. It's all geared to March in the big house.
Right.
And I didn't have that at the end. And now, professionally, personally, there's other things that are bigger than my profession, obviously. But professionally, man, I was missing something. I needed that. I needed that competition. I needed that goal at the end. And nothing was providing that. And so that year I was out, it really made me rethink and refocus, and what was really important came to light. And so when I had that opportunity to come to Fort Gibson, I'm like, I'm in, but I knew I was going to be coaching junior high girls, and they had an established assistant, and I wasn't trying to take over anything.
Right.
I just wanted to be a part. I'm ready to go.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
And so Jerry welcomed me there, and Jerry Walker, and so it really worked out good. It really
I'll
has.
say.
Yes.
So how was he to work with as when he was the head guy? Now he's your assistant. So I'd like to talk about
isn't
those
that funny?
dynamics.
It's crazy. I couldn't ask for anybody better than Jerry. When I was first starting out, Daryl Glover was unbelievable, and what he taught me and his example on and off the floor and the way he dealt with kids, and boy, I was really thankful for being at Bristow and being with him. And I learned I would not be the coach I am now without being with Daryl at Bristow, because I learned real quick I can't just. It's not coaching is not just on the floor.
Right.
And a lot of times you think that coming out of college, just games. But I learned there's so much more to coaching kids if you really want to be good.
Right.
And the way it was set up at Bristow, and we had some kids that needed some guidance, and Coach Bill Scott, football coach there, legendary. I learned a lot from him, even though I was helping football, but I wasn't right underneath him, and so got to watch from afar and the way they dealt with those kids, and so I learned a ton there, and so I couldn't ask for anything better with Daryl, because he gave me a lot of responsibility, and we had a great time. And of course, we were successful, but there was a lot more to it than that, and we had great kids. It wasn't about us coaches; it's about those kids, like it always is. But and then to come into Fort Gibson and being with Jerry David, one Hall of Famer to another in my books, and they both are. And so Jerry was open arms. We hit it off. I was struggling. Do I move down there? I want to take the job, but I'm a little bit shy. But of course, my wife, she's from Bristow. She was ready to go. My family, they were ready to go. We knew the Glovers. I was the one holding us back. And finally, I decided I would, and I called Jerry David that day, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm coming down." And he's like, "Do you like to play cards? Pitch and stuff like that, family cards, things like that. Do you like to eat it on the border?" I'm like, "I'm in," and that's crazy.
Perfect match.
And he said, "We're going to have a good time," and that just made everything, little things,
awesome.
and that just made everything better. And so, working with him, he was always open to ideas. Not that he would use them, but he was very receptive. I had known Jerry, but I hadn't really coached him. I didn't know him real well. But man, it was just like a match made in heaven coming down, and such a great example. Both those guys on the floor, most importantly off, and they both coach different. They're both different styles. And in the way they approach things. And so I was really fortunate to be under two great head coaches.
So how you came here in 06?
Actually, it was 07. It was fall of 07. I was thinking about that.
And very established, but had not you said won the first state title here. Your first state title before Gibson was in 11. Is that correct?
Well, the very first title that we won together, I was the assistant, was in 2011.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you were good state tournament. And
well, my first year, in 07, 08. So in 06, I watched Fort Gibson in the state finals get beat by Deer Creek, a superior team. Then in 06, 07, I watched Fort Gibson get beat in the finals by Weatherford. And that was a tough one because they thought they could win. Right. And it just, it comes down to, and so that was a tough one. So then I'm there, and we get to in 07, 08, and we get to the finals again, which was my first year there, and we get beat at the end by Star Spencer. So we had 3 runner-ups in a row. Right. And that was tough, even though I wasn't there. I mean, that was tough. And Jerry, great coach, but that works on you. That first runner-up, Deer Creek they were by far, in a way, the best team. But then after that, so that starts working on you a little bit. Yeah. But, after that year, we got back in 08, 09, we got back and got beat in the semis by Veneta. And that was a tough loss because we gave up a lead. Right. And that was tough. And then in 10, we got back. One of our post girl, Nana Walsh, had gotten hurt, and we didn't have her. And Carissa Crutchfield did a great job. I think that's when the culture of our program changed, and we give a lot of credit to Carissa Crutchfield. And she was a great player for us. But that year we got beat in the first round in 10 by Weatherford, Rick Wilson. But then in 11, we got him. We beat Cash in the finals, and it was a great experience.
Well, that's awesome. So, as an assistant, just to let everyone know, as Conley's assistant, there were a lot of things I had to do game day. Most importantly was get him a Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Secondly was was make sure the scorebook was ready, and then third was he always it was kind of a good cop bad cop, but he was like, I feel horrible about this, right? And regardless of how I felt about it, I was like, I feel great about it. This is what we need. So did you have any of that as an assistant?
I didn't have some of those specific duties. Jerry always included me in everything that he wanted to decide on, and so we kind of knew what we were wanting to do going into I would just suggest things, because sometimes you get a little distracted, and so I would throw out things and that we had talked about previous. But the thing about being that assistant behind Jerry and Daryl's was I got, unfortunately, front row seat to seeing their butt all night long. And now I get teased because I'm the one up, and I'm like, hey, you got some now,
we got the whole assistants leaning like this.
I know.
When I graduated Northeastern, I was fortunate enough to be a young head coach back at Cleveland, and then I left Cleveland, and then I was assistant for 21 years in college before I wanted to coach my son and got back into high school. And so I know how important good assistant coaches are. And, Curt wasn't a good assistant. He was a great assistant for all kinds of reasons. But, he, funny story, you're talking about making suggestions. I'm telling you, Curt Branch would make the best suggestions ever. Curt, how many of those did I ever take? I mean,
Two. They both worked.
100%.
But I was the same way. When I was assistant, making suggestions and things I thought would work.
Well, and it's a lot easier to be sitting down and not having to go on your record and making a suggestion. I mean, you're still in it, you're still involved, and you're still committed to it.
No question.
But, you're not the guy that has to answer questions if you lose.
Right.
And I made some harebrained suggestions from time to time, just to see if he'd listen
Oh,
to
yeah.
me. But, so Jerry retired and went to Porter. Is that correct?
Yep. He was the principal over there and AD, and he had felt led to go over there, and it was a shock to everybody.
Yeah.
And so, that happened in the middle of the summer, and the timing wasn't great. And then who's going to coach? And, after it wasn't a bad experience at Bristol. People had asked me, what's it like following a legend? And Daryl was that that. And I'm like, boy, that's tough. And I said, if I ever have that opportunity again, I don't know if I'll do it. Well, X amount of years later, guess what? Now I'm following what we've got. We've been to the final, and I'm like, God Almighty! You put so much pressure on yourself,
right? Yeah.
And people are like, well, Fort Gibson, they're going to have applications out the wazoo, and I always wanted to take it, but I kept telling Daryl no, and he's like, man, I think you're the guy for the job. And I'm like, no, and I put out. We had two applicants. Two.
Really?
And think about the success we'd had.
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one that was a little concerned about doing that. I mean,
you're in the spotlight now.
Yes. And so, nobody wants to be that guy if things starts going down after what it had been built to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's just human nature. And that was a big concern, although in the back of my mind, man, let's go. I want to do this. I know these kids. We've got some great kids here. We're going to be successful. And so we interviewed some guys and good applicants, and then it started getting real because, I didn't know, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to. So finally I told Daryl, I said, look, give me the weekend. Just give me the weekend. He goes, okay. And so the weekend passed, and I said, I'm ready. Let's go. Yeah. And so then the funny story was one of our applicants who was going to get the job. And I knew that. And I loved this guy. And I knew him, and I love him even more now. Scott Lowe. And he had coached in different places, and he'd come to our team. I knew Scott well. He would have been a great head coach for us. He'd been a head coach, been very successful.
Sallisaw Central, correct?
Sallisaw Central. He was at Adair. He was at some different. He was at Roland.
Yeah.
And unbelievable coach. And I called him. I said, well, he goes, Daryl asked me when I said I wanted it. He goes, who do you want to be your assistant? And I said, well, you think it's crazy? Let's ask Scott Lowe. And he's like, you think he's going to be a head coach and come here as an assistant? I said, I don't know, but I'm not asking him to do something that I haven't already done. Because I was a head coach and I became assistant. But Jerry, it ain't about that. I don't have no ego. I don't care. Let's go.
He's the best guy for the job.
He's the best guy. I said, all he can do is say no. Mm-hmm. And if he says no, okay, but I say and so Daryl called him and let him know that I was going to take the job and that I wanted him to be. And I called Jerry that day and said, look, you need to get a hold of Scott Lowe and you need to talk to him because he needs to be here. Because we're going to, and he's going to, I may have the title as head coach, but he's a head coach. It's all together. And that's the way Jerry ran it. We were just all a staff with Denise Gray, and we had a great time. And that's what I wanted to continue. And so things moved pretty quick. And Scott, at first, after the fact, he told me, he's like, you want me to be? No way. What are these guys thinking, And so by the end of the day, he started thinking about it, and he decided to come over.
Yeah.
And he has made an unbelievable difference. I call him, that first year, and I've said it all along, I call him Lincoln Riley, because he's, I'm a little more structured offensively. Me and Jerry were a lot more structured offensively. That's why we kind of connected. He is a little more spread out and kind of a little more freedom, and I've wanted to do that. So I call him Lincoln Riley because, I lean on him for those things, and so he came over, and so it's been great. And, we had another guy that was coaching our junior high that was new that year, Caleb Harmon, and he came over and was coaching our junior high and did a great job at that time. And so, we take over. I'll never forget, he told the team the evening before our last day of team camp. Well, that next day, our first time, like me, we're playing Victory Christian in the summer. Well, Victory Christian's loaded. And, we knew from previous years, this is going to be a big summer. We got it. But it's still pretty dang important.
It's big. Oh, yeah.
And so, I don't know how these girls are going to react. Their coach just left. They're upset, just on it. And we go out there that next day, and they just, it just started the ball rolling because we played well, and it just kind of started getting the confidence, and then Lowe joins us and Parman joins us, and then it was unbelievable. That first year was crazy.
Well, and I think the girls in Fort Gibson, they grow up playing basketball, and I think they know what's expected, right? I mean, they know that. My mom won a state championship, or or my big sister, and I think that breeds success too.
It does. There's no question, and if they didn't have a mom or a sister that had been in it, they were at the big house watching.
Right.
They were all painted up. And now, our motto, and it's in our locker room, tradition never graduates, and it's up there big and bold. And
that's a great way to put
we've it. We've always believed that, and we've had some great players.
How many second and third generation, because you've got a couple of girls that you got sisters on the team. You've got girls that are playing. Your good freshman, 25.
Shield Knight.
Yep. Had a sister that was a really good player for you guys. So.
I don't know how many we have. We got Whiteley on there now. I got my daughter on there now. And her older sisters played. Oh gosh, I'd have to go. There's several. Yeah. There's several that we've had.
That's a little sister that's a sophomore. And she's going to be.
Yep. It's success breeds success, and they, the culture was built a long time ago. And Jerry, way back, Ronnie Rogers did a great job.
Yeah.
And we were coaching 6-on-6 back then, and played them when we were at Bristow, and then they've always been good in basketball, but not to the level that Jerry got them to. And it didn't happen right when Jerry took over. It took some time, but then he got it to a ridiculously high level. I mean, finals after finals after finals after finals, and then we started getting some wins in there, and so, but they understand the expectation. It's there, and they know, and so we roll out like last night. We play Harding Charter. And, they walk out, and they got their 6'3" girl going to Marquette. And we walk out, and we got some nice-looking girls. And we came over for that last huddle, and I said, girls, I don't think they're intimidated by your look. I'm just going to say. They played class, and they played Booker T, and they played all these. I said, I don't think they understand what you got right here. And so after the game, I'm like, they may not have been intimidated by our look. But we take pride in that. We're just a bunch of average old girls that got a lot of heart and a lot of ability that plays hard and play together, and that's what makes it special.
Yeah. Well, I would say from calling the festival a couple of weeks ago, he's got more than just a little heart. I mean, they got about 9 girls that can shoot it. He's, one of the things I love about your offense, because you see a lot of skip passes. Girls basketball, it's hard to get the ball from one side of the court to the other. You do as good a job as anybody in the country of using the post and to deliver, but all of his guards can skip it, but they also reverse the ball through the post instead of around the perimeter or up through the top of the key.
Our kids they're very smart, and they're very coachable. And I think that's the biggest thing. They're coachable.
Yeah.
We know they're not perfect. We're not perfect. But I make more mistakes than they do all the time. I tell them that. But as long as you're trying to do the right thing and you're playing hard, trying to do the right thing, you're going to make mistakes, but we can live with those.
Yeah.
And so they know there's a high expectation there.
Yeah.
And, it's tough on them sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes it's tough. They understand the expectations.
Yeah.
And sometimes that, in 2018, we've got a really good team, and we're in the area finals playing Veneta, who we had beat up there in a tight game. And so we're getting ready to go to Skytook, and that week, if you're in the winner's bracket, it's a long week to Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, we have fun with our kids.
Practice out because
yeah.
you can't keep
Sure.
them.
Yeah.
And so we roll into practice on Monday, and it's not a good practice. And then Tuesday, and I'm like, these guys, they're tight. They're tight. And they're not laughing at our jokes, and they're kind of crabby, and it's not good. They're uptight, and they know it's close. We're close. They're close to the big goal, which is get to the state tournament. That's always our goal. Get to the state tournament. If you can't get there, you ain't got a chance.
Right.
If you get there, let's get there, and now the pressure's off.
Right.
Just relax and go play. And, we played that area finals against Veneta, and they came out ready to play. And so it was a great game for us. And so, but they feel that pressure sometimes.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Coach, and with the tradition at Fort Gibson, and even the teams that you guys had at Bristow. Here's what Curt and I found out at Booker T. And when I got the job, they told me this, and when I was a college coach, we talked about this with this program and that program. But I bet you get everybody's best shot. I know at Booker T, we got everybody's best shot because they're playing Booker T. And that's got to be the same way with Fort Gibson girls.
I can't tell you what goes on in other locker rooms, but we feel that. And I don't want that to sound arrogant, but we feel like we get people's best shot, and that's an honor. I mean,
it is.
Another saying that Coach Walker's always used, and it's pressure is a privilege.
Yeah.
It's sometimes that pressure gets to you, but really you want that pressure because if you've got that pressure, it must mean you're pretty good. Right. And so we've been fortunate. It starts with the players. There's no question. We've had unbelievable kids that played for us, whether in Bristow or here at Fort Gibson, and that it always starts there. And it's about them. We're just lucky to kind of take the ride with them. But it's fun.
So one thing I always think about is not just privilege, but it's a responsibility too, because you're carrying on the legacy of what came before you, and you're setting the stage for what's coming after you.
Right.
And so,
Right.
How much do you see that with this group? I mean, because we're in a really interesting time. We were number 1 ranked team going into state tournament. I was bringing in Chick-fil-A. We're going to have a quick team meal, and we're going to head to the gym. You were driving a bus.
Yeah, that was a bad time. That Wednesday before, when all that stuff's happening, and I'm going, man, surely we're going to be okay. But I was getting worried that night. But then I talked to the OSSA, and they're like, we're on. And so I talked to them early Thursday morning before we left, and we're on. I'm like, here we go, baby, we're going. And we were playing Victory Christian, and we had gotten beat by them earlier in the year, and I felt like I couldn't shake it. I didn't do a good job in that game of our strategy, and I kind of held us back on what we should be doing. And I don't know if they'd have made any difference, but by gosh, we were ready to go, and we were going to get after them. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know our team was ready to play. So we were excited as heck to go because we were ready to exercise some demons or have a chance at it.
Right.
And so, I had been told we're good, we're in. And so, we load up, do all our stuff and practice and load up our stuff. And so we're heading down the road, and we leave on the turnpike, leaving Tulsa, just getting west of Tulsa. And I had my phone, and I saw, I felt it vibrating, and I looked at it, and it was Amy Castle. And
That's not good.
I'm like, this is not good. Just not good. And I pulled over, and she said, Coach, right now we're suspending the state tournament to further notice. Wherever you're at, just head back home and things like that. And I got her right off right there at that Sepulpa exit, and I knew what had happened. Pull off through the turnpike gate and pulled it over on the side and got up and, ooh, that was tough.
It was tough.
It gets me emotional
I'll tell
right
you
now.
what,
Woo!
A couple
Gosh.
things I remember, Coach London, so you always have that, and it's the greatest meeting ever, is the Sunday meeting.
Unbelievable. The
before
greatest meeting. No question.
I mean, it's the greatest
No,
meeting ever.
you're
okay?
exactly right.
So we're at that Sunday meeting, okay? COVID is a reality. And Mike Whaley does the 5A and 6A meeting, and we're in there, and he's talking about, the parameters for COVID and how the Mabee Center, because 5A and 6A, we're at the Mabee Center, how they're going to have the hand sanitizer, they're going to do this and do that, and Curt, I'm not even sure if I've ever told you this, but this I'll never forget this. Okay, somebody asked him, and he said, "There's no plan B."
Yeah.
There's no plan B. We don't have a plan B.
I remember hearing that.
So I'm driving. So now, fast forward to Thursday. This is how it went down with us. I'm driving down Yale, headed to Booker T. Like Curt said, he's getting Chick-fil-A. I'm on the way. I mean, Trey and Bryce are blowing me up on the phone because it's already hit Twitter before I could get there and talk to the team.
Right.
But I knew. I mean, Coach London, I knew when Coach Whaley said there's no plan B, when that thing was canceled, I was like, it's done.
Well, and it was so weird because
and which they had no business trying to play it anyway. I mean, based on what happened after that, but.
Well, it was weird because there was talk of we're going to try to play it in April. We're going to give this a couple of
We were
weeks.
holding on to every string, every little, and in the back of our minds, I think we all knew.
Yeah.
The weirdest part for us is because we didn't see the kids the rest of the year until he resigned, and I was just to think about all those emotions and all those memories you had made with all those kids, and then it doesn't hit you. I'll tell you when it hit me. I was loading up today to come over and do the broadcast for your all's tournament, and I have a backpack that has notepads and pens and all the kinds of stuff that you need as an assistant, scorebooks and all this stuff. And I'm digging through there trying to find something, and I pull out the wad of state tournament passes that they give to the players and they give to the coaches. And I need to take those up to the boys.
I handed ours out.
And I kept them. I had their names on them and all that. But it was such a crazy time.
It was so surreal. It was
Well,
terrible.
Coach, let's fast forward to this year's state tournament. Okay, you guys are 10-1. We talked earlier off the air. Your only loss was Union girls are ranked number 2 in 6A and just beat Sapulpa by 20 last night. Who's the best team in 5A? Sapulpa. I mean, they've got to be the favorite in 5A.
I would think so.
So you guys are having another great year. Kind of give me the landscape. 4A girls basketball, this side of the state, that side of the state.
Well, overall, we've gotten off to a good start, and I really like where we're at with our team. And Union got us, and it's not a bad loss right there.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of tough ones coming up, and so we'll see. We want to progress like we've been doing. We like where we're at. We had a really good performance last night, and so I really like our team. We're not there, and we always tell them we don't want to be playing our best till playoffs,
Right.
and so it's hard to control that, as you know. But that's what you get that mindset, and so we'll see how it all works out. As far as 4A, everybody thinks their class is the toughest.
Right.
I got you, but 4A year in and year out, we really believe it's top to bottom. It's as tough as it gets.
Yeah.
Classen is, a lot of people think they're the best team in the state, regardless of class. I don't know that. I know that they're phenomenal. And, and then you got Anadarko, who's been there every year, and Coach Zen does a great job. And they're right there. They've battled Classen. So those are the top two
He's
teams.
got a pretty stress-filled job like you when he's coaching Anadarko and Fort Gibson. Those are a lot of stressful jobs.
Well,
4A girls
he's
girls.
done an unbelievable job. And so, you got those two teams setting up there. And then you got, right now, I think you've got Weatherford, who's quality. And in fact, I think Weatherford beat Darko. And then you got Tuttle has beaten Weatherford. Those are some quality teams out on the west side. And then you got Harding out there as well. You start back this way, and Verdigris, Coach Bunton, unbelievable job, and I know they're highly rated, and we've played them, and I know what they're all about, and they've been good.
He's a Cleveland guy. He played.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I coached Michael all 3 years of
Really?
high school. Yeah.
Yes, I had forgot, but they've got a good team. Hall's got a good team. Grove's got a good team.
Yeah.
We feel Locust has a good team. Muldrow's got the tradition, but those teams right there, and then I think you can throw us in the mix with those on the east side. It's a deep field in 4A. It's a deep one.
Well, there's 64 teams in 4A, right?
Yes,
so you're talking about 5A has 32 and 6A has 32. So
Right.
you double those teams. That just makes it twice as tough right there.
It does. It does.
Because anything can happen in one game.
It does. Yes, it does.
Especially the game we love, the game we coach.
Yeah, there's no
You
doubt.
know?
So we got the Old Fort Classic this week.
Yes.
What can we expect? Bravado Wireless is going to broadcast the games. They're going to see me a
We're
little bit on
excited
TV.
about that. Yeah, you'll be there.
Dion Amani's got to carry me along a little ways, but
Okay.
he'll be there all day tomorrow. I'll be there for the evening shift.
Okay.
And then,
Well, it's a good tournament. Knock on wood. Hopefully, we get to play every game. We've been to tournaments. I've watched other tournaments, and COVID presents a challenge, and so hopefully we just get a play. And but we're in it obviously. And then on the girls' side, the number one seed is Roland, and they're undefeated, number one in 3A, and they deserve the number one seed. And those kids have been, they're seniors, they're senior laden, and they played since they were sophomores, so they're battle tested, and that's a really, really good team over there. And then on our side of the bracket, we'll have Memorial or Inola. We play Hale or Memorial, Tulsa Memorial, Inola, and Inola's, I'm familiar with them. They're getting better. They're young. They've got a senior that's a really, really good player, Kylie Day, coming off some knee injuries, but she's back and she's getting back to her old self. And they've had a little changeover in the coaching, and now they're all kind of settling in. So Inola's tough. Memorial, Coach Asbury does a good job there, so we're going to see there. On the other side, Roland's got a bye, and then Hilldale and Stillwell will play. And Hilldale's got off to a really good start and beat some good teams on the road and some ranked teams. And so they're formidable. And then you have Stillwell, who's young and got some really nice young players who's had some good wins and played some really good teams. So Stillwell's got a lot of tradition, goes way back. Like you said, the Paydens, way, way back. But we're looking forward to a great tournament. We really are. And we just hope we get to play it. But, it's fun hosting. We used to do a 5-day tournament. Now we're into the 3-day, and where I'm from, that's all. That's
all you did.
We all did that, and that's what it was. I knew nothing else. We hosted a tournament, went to the week capital like we talked about, and so I really, it's wall-to-wall basketball, and it's fun just as a fan, and our fans will be there, and so we're excited about it.
Yeah. Well, Bravado Wireless will be there too. We're excited to be able to broadcast the games and support the local communities. And we appreciate you coming on tonight. Had a blast talking to you.
Coach, really enjoyed visiting.
I appreciate it. Appreciate
really
you guys. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah, and hopefully we can have you back, and hopefully we'll be able to play a state tournament this year, and we'll be cheering you along the whole way. Now, listen, we're going to reserve the right, since we had this broadcast, to maybe get a ring, since we didn't get our last one last year. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, we won't pay for it. We'll make Bravado pay for it.
Right. There you go.
We're kind of
honorary assistant coaches. Honorary.
There we go.
So anyway, thank you for your time, and good luck this week.
Thank you, guys.
Until January 31st, new Bravado Wireless customers are eligible for 50% off the Samsung A11 with a new monthly plan. And on top of that, your second and third months of service are on us. It doesn't get much better than that. Visit bravadowireless.com for store locations. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
Well, thanks again for joining us this week on the Four Quarters with Curtis and Two, and thanks again to Coach London for his time, and really enjoyed getting to hear a little bit about his background and what makes Fort Gibson girls basketball.
Really enjoyed talking a little basketball with him. We even all the way back to 6-on-6. Back when he started coaching. So
probably the only people listening to this podcast know what 6-on-6 is. I think if we can get our kids to listen to our podcast, maybe they would be somebody that doesn't know what that is.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So anyway, we'd like to thank Bravado Wireless for providing us this platform to talk high school hoops and in basketball in general. And I thank my sidekick, Conley Phipps, for putting up with me another week, and look forward to coming back next week and talking hoops again. Thanks for your time, and have a good evening.
See you, Curtis.
See you.
This podcast is brought to you by Bravado Wireless. We believe in the power of connection.